I want to take just a couple of minutes with you this morning and look at a little snippet of the Shirah that Joe read for us this morning. And in chapter 15 in the Shirah, we have a phrase which is Elohei Avi, the God of my father, which is a remarkable phrase. It is a phrase that is distinctive primarily in the book of Genesis. And there it is used to emphasize the continuity from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob, where it was literally the God of my father, right? The God that Abraham discovers becomes the God of Isaac, becomes the God of Jacob. And then Jacob communicates it to his sons. And when God first appears to Moshe, in order to establish that sense of continuity again, he says, I am the God of Abraham, of Isaac, of Jacob, but I'm introducing myself to you, not just the God of as the God of your ancestors, but with a new name. Right? And he says, the name Adonai, the one that you and I are going to use, is new. And part of what I think we are seeing is the transition from the individual transmission of God to a more collective expression of belief in God. We go from the individual to the collectivity, from the patriarchs to the entire nation. And in many ways, just as Abraham marked a new moment, a transition in the religious life of everyone by discovering and embracing monotheism, Moses also marks a new stage in the history of religion. And as such, we get this new nomenclature. But the thing that I think is meant to be a constant is the connotation of a special personal relationship between the individual and his deity or her deity. One of the things that has been true throughout the book of Genesis and up to this point of the Exodus is the idea of God as patron and protector, God as redeemer, and the one whom we can rely on in moments of difficulty. And so even though we have gone from God of your father in the singular to God of their father, meaning the collectivity, it is also a challenge for each of us to establish a unique relationship with God. That the moments of encounter are as myriad as the people themselves. And as the verse goes on, it emphasizes the idea that each and every Israelite standing there recognizes that they are in the presence of God. But imagine for a moment if you were to ask even the people in this room, what do you mean by God? I don't know how many people are in the room. I'm going to guess about 40. I would get 40 answers with nuances of overlap. But each of us would define and understand God based on the moments of encounter that we've had, the experiences that we've had, that those moments when we've said, wow, I feel God in this moment. Remember years ago, teaching a class, which I hadn't expected to teach on a Shabbat afternoon. It was at a US-wide convention. And I threw out the question, how many of you believe in God? And I figured half the group would say yes, half the group would say no, and I'd let them debate. And so I asked the question. Not a single hand went up. I'm going, oi. Not only has my plan been ruined, but even more so, oi. What has happened that no one articulated belief in God? Have we come 3 millennia through history, survived ordeals upon ordeals, only to have our belief in God die in suburbia? But I still had 40 minutes. So I quickly regrouped and I said, okay, has any of you ever felt close to God? And every single hand went up. And I'm going like, yeah, that's part of what I was thinking. You're like, okay, I don't know if they're messing with me. I don't know what. So I decided, all right, tell me when you felt close to God. And one talks about how, well, on Friday night, when my mother is lighting Shabbat candles and I stand with her, it feels like God is right there with us. And another one talks about, well, last week or 2 weeks ago, my dad asked me to take out the trash, and I really wasn't in the mood, and I really didn't want to, but I sort of remembered that, Kibud Av Va'em thing. And so I went and I did it, and as I was doing it, I almost felt like God was helping me pull the trash bins down. But it was remarkable how each and every person in that room was able to delineate a moment relatively recently in their lives when they felt close to God. And each one was unique and different. And that's the remarkable nature of the encounter with the Holy One. Each one of us has those unique moments of encounter, and none of the other kids would have had the same one. And it's all about just being open to that potential moment. Different USY convention. I walked into a class that I was teaching, and I brought my then 6-month-old daughter, Sarah. And people are going, oh, she's so cute. We're going like, no, you don't understand. She is our guest speaker. Yeah, that's how they reacted too. And I sat her in the middle of the room, and we're sitting around in a circle. And I'm going like, okay, she's our guest speaker. I want you to watch her. They now think I'm totally, but she's cute, so they watch. And, I'd put a few things on the ground near her, and she's, how is she encountering this stuff? Everything the 6-month-old picks up. Oh, even it's just a hand. That's the lesson. We want to encounter God. It's about allowing ourselves to experience moments of wow. And sometimes they're big and magnificent when we're standing at the Grand Canyon or atop of some mountain peak and looking out at the vista, and or you're driving along the top of that mountain range, going up Mount Washington, and all of a sudden you're in the middle of a cloud. You're going, and the road appears on the other side. I'm going like, wow, we're still on the road. But in that moment, you feel you have entered the realm of the Holy One. And as those young teenagers are, sometimes it's when you're standing with someone doing a mitzvah. It's when you're comforting someone who's bereaved. It's when you're celebrating with someone at a bris or a bar mitzvah. We feel this palpable sense of God in that moment, and we allow ourselves to experience the wow that comes with it and acknowledge that this is the same God that touched the lives of our ancestors, and our ancestors have entered us into this special relationship, the distinctive connection between ourselves and God that allows us to have those wow moments and build a relationship between ourselves and God that is both as unique as the Holy One and as unique as each of us.